had a small fish drop off as I lifted it out of the water. But this one hooked in the lip there. And you know what? I'm going to weigh that because I think this could well be above 2 grams. In fact, my best, or the best that I've had so far since I've had the scales, 2.1. I think this is 2.3. There's the final readout, 2.2 grams, which means actually that it's a new PB since I've started weighing them, of course, but I have had much bigger fish than this, and that's what I'm looking forward to connecting with. I've had a few fish. I thought I would weigh this one though. It's a tiny 3 spine stickleback and it's 0.4 grams. Great scales though, they will weigh in tenths, which is important when you're dealing with a mini species. The spot when I'm fishing is so tight, I've had to put the phone on the floor looking up at me so I can't move it around from the angle that it was originally. That's the thing of these small brooks, isn't it? Very, very overgrown. This, by the way, is a tree, if you're wondering what that is. If you noticed when I was filming the stickleback, or sticklebacks on the scales, that the tray itself was slightly wet, and while I'm talking, I'm fishing, just bringing the maggot up and down in the water. And one of the things I think is important, that you treat all fish that you catch with respect. You think of pike welfare and carp in particular, but what about sticklebacks? If I put a fish directly onto that, a little one there just came off. He wonders what's happened to it. It's just hanging there slightly in the water before it disappears. If I put a stickleback directly onto the plastic tray, it will stick to it. So I wet it first. I can see some fish down there, very, very small ones though, in this particular place today. Just those two that I've had. I've had 2 fish over 2 grams. The rest have all been tiny. But I think it's important to think about the fish that you catch. Stickleback lives matter. It's not just about pike and carp and other big fish, is it? It's all the ones that we catch. Anyway, I'll be ready to go home shortly because this is a very short, quick visit to a brook on Monday morning. I'll go home, get changed, well, I'll have a shower, get changed, and then I'm off to work. I think that's it for me. Right, if you're out this week, enjoy. And tight lines. While I was walking back to the car, I was thinking about the thoughts on sticklebacks. Life is important, as important as a bigger fish, and I started to digress into all manner of things there. So for example, you've got some anglers who will eat their fish, others who will dead bait, knock a fish on the head and use it to catch another one, others who will live bait. So there are lots of things within angling whereby we say that a fish's life is important and we need to treat that fish with respect. For example, unhooking mats and treating them in the right way, even with carp in particular, using treatment on them when you get one that's maybe got a little bit of a sore on it. So you can look at all the big picture issues and see that sometimes it's not as black and white as we would like it to be. So you get an angler who criticises live baiting, for example, as being inhumane and wrong and cruel. But the same fisherman will stick a worm on a hook or will happily eat fish that's been caught from the sea and pulled up from the depths in a big net and left to flap around until it dies. I think it's interesting when you do look at the big picture and you see that in reality none of us can take the moral high ground on things, can we? You get carp fishermen who will cradle the fish lovingly. They'll even have a cradle tip water on the fish so that it remains wet after they've caught it and before they photograph it, wait and photograph it. All very good, of course, but then I'm known, because they've told me themselves, the same anglers will throw a bream or a tench into the canal behind the lake, or worse still, into the bushes. So I think it's interesting as we step back and look at that big picture, but it doesn't alter the fact that ultimately just treat the fish right at that time that you're catching. That's the thing that I would say is important.